There is just something about this place that is holy, that is spiritual.
Grand Coteau is a place where you can sort of feel the communion of saints.
I would say that Grand Coteau is the heart of the province.
All of us have done our first 2 years here, and so there is a sense of coming home.
This is where we learn what it means to be a Jesuit. And so much of the tradition of the province centers right here in Grand Coteau.
It's a wonderful place to come back to because you know this is a place of prayer, and many people have prayed in this place, not just Jesuits, and you know this place is built on prayer.
For over 100 years, St. Charles College has been the spiritual home for the Jesuits of the New Orleans province. Located in Grand Coteau, a peaceful corner of Cajun country in Louisiana, where Saints John Berkmans, Catherine Drexel, and Rose Philippine Duchesne have walked, St. Charles College welcomes novices to its novitiate as it has for generations, through its shaded path of century-old pines and oaks. Also within its halls is the Jesuit Spirituality Center, which for decades has shared Ignatian spirituality with the laity, religious, and clergy, making this tiny rural retreat the spiritual home for men and women from the Atlantic coast to the Rocky Mountains. Once a state-of-the-art building for the 20th century, the college's construction remains very sound, and with a respectful bow to the past and a hopeful glance toward the future, the Jesuits are working to renew this sacred place for another 100 years.
It's a place, for me as a Jesuit, why this is important is because the history of my family, my Jesuit family, is here. It's rooted here. After I took vows, when I came back, this was my home. And I know many of my classmates felt the same way. This is home.
When I sit in the novitiate chapel, memories just flood back into me of the novice master, of making the 30-day retreat, of the men who were in the class with me. All of these memories come back to me.
You're just permeated with the whole spirituality of the Jesuit, of the Ignatian spirituality, and it becomes a great part. And I think in my own life, that has been indicated very much by my desire always to come back here.
Just as it was the first source as novices, it's a resource for us now to break up the humdrum of perhaps too busy a life in the teaching, apostolate, or the pastoral life.
What's really important is having time to come back together in a space that's quiet, to reflect on those experiences, to pray about them. The experience of the spiritual exercises here is very important for the formation of a novice.
One thing that is important is the silence and the solitude which this building provides.
I think Grand Coteau is ideal for that, and retreatants tell us over and over again how wonderful this place is precisely for that.
When the silence and the oak tree leaves are the only thing that you hear, and you tend to walk around and you usually find yourself perhaps in the graveyard and looking over. Then you see maybe more of a purpose in life.
There just aren't too many places that you can go and find that kind of beauty, silence, reflective atmosphere, and standing on the wisdom and the presence of others who've gone before us.
As St. Charles College enters a new century of service, its interior must be similarly adapted to meet the needs of retreatants and Jesuits. The college's structure has been deemed sound by architects and is noted as an impressive treasure of symmetry and proportion, but its older bones need attention. Antiquated infrastructure must be brought up to today's safety code with a fire sprinkler system, alarm mechanisms, and enclosed stairwells, and the old elevators must be replaced to accommodate guests and residents with disabilities. Other necessary improvements include updating plumbing, electrical, and cooling and heating systems, as well as the addition of simple rooms for novices and updates to retreatants' rooms. These improvements to St. Charles College will ensure that it continues to provide a peaceful and sacred place for all who come to discern God's call here, ensuring Ignatian spirituality continues to flourish. Elder Jesuits will also benefit with the introduction of assisted living accommodations to the Eastern Wing, allowing the men of Ignatius residents to share in the formation of novice Jesuits or to guide retreats.
The men of my generation felt that in their retirement they would like to be in an urban setting. But New Orleans just doesn't work, because when people get to the point where they need assisted care, an evacuation is an extremely traumatic experience. And Grand Coteau is sufficiently far from the coast that evacuation is not a necessity.
When you bring the elder Jesuits back, there is a sense of lived spirituality, there's a sense of their whole lifelong of being in a relationship with the Lord that comes back.
One of the wonderful things about Jesuits of any age, but especially older Jesuits, is they like to tell stories. And they can tell stories forever. Those stories being told to young Jesuits who are excited about this new life is very, very good for not just simply education, but passing on the tradition, the culture of the society.
Having people who are still on fire with the Lord, who are excited to be with the young people who are just as on fire, but there are different types of fires. I think that here you have a fire that's just starting to get going. The kindling is still cracking, whereas here you have a hot fire. Perhaps the coals, you don't see the flames as much, but it's solid, it's deep, it's hot. And so there's something that there's a complementarity that you can get by bringing the two fires together.
If I in thy likeness, O Lord, may awake.
The modernization of St. Charles College is particularly crucial in light of how its mission and ministries have evolved over the last century. Looking ahead to another 100 years, the college not only continues its dual mission of offering the gift of the spiritual exercises and preparing novice Jesuits to serve God's people, it also expands its welcome to more novices, the elder Jesuits, and increasing numbers of retreatants.
If something were to happen and the Jesuit Spirituality Center and the novitiate were no longer there, our part of the state, our part of the country would be losing a peace center. A place where I've talked to Catholics and non-Catholics alike, people who simply go out to Grand Coteau to absorb and to assimilate the peace of the place.
What kind of price tag do you put on a 100-year-old building that really cannot be replaced? This building can't be built the way it was 100 years ago. And an awful lot of what the value of the building is are the memories that are stuck between the walls. And that can't be replaced as well, nor can it be insured. And so I think the responsible thing is to take care of the building as best we can, and in doing that, to make it into something that makes sense, that is, makes it a useful building into the next century.
Before we leave this world, and it's my goal and objective, as I hope it is all of my fellow Jesuit graduates and all of those that have been influenced in one way or another by Jesuit High School, Loyola University, or any of the institutions that have meant so much, that now is the time, before we leave this world, we need to give back so that the young today enjoy the same privilege we enjoyed.
I just keep using the word jewel, because to me it's like a jewel on top of a treasure chest, and I would think the treasure chest would be less if we did not have this jewel.
To sustain St. Charles College for another century of service, you can partner with us to ensure the college remains a center for spiritual development. In honor of your Jesuit pastor, teacher, retreat director, or friend, we ask you to prayerfully consider supporting the renewal of St. Charles College.
Within thy blessed mansions, and when the arms of my Father and serve